Last couple of days, of course, we've seen the outbreak of the fallout of the breakfast TV presenters Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield. And it plays out, doesn't it, like a soap opera, the behind the scenes gossip, who gets on with who's now fired, axed, removed, whatever you want to call it. And as somebody who works in this particular industry, you do find it slightly fascinating, I have to agree, because of course what you see presented in front of the camera, particularly on those very big channels, is all really heavily scripted. There's a big production team and everybody's working towards, well, basically as much money as they can get. Then, of course, there's the advertisers. They have to please them. And if you don't get the ratings, then, of course, you're living in fear that you might get axed. No such problem here, of course, when you're a one-man band and you've got no script writer, no producer, and no big budget. What do you mean you can tell the difference? How dare you? Suffering from my art here in the middle of all this hay fever. Yes, indeed. But seriously, it's fascinating because when you do look at the industry, then you have people who decide to spill the beans. Normally, a few years after they've decided to leave one of the biggest corporations that's made them a multi-millionaire-ess. They've been on your screens for many, many years, presented a breakfast show. And guess what? They've decided to write a book and reveal all. But what it truly says about that particular individual is this. And as ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning. How are you? Nice to see you. Hope you're well. Yes, we're in Kensington Park again, full of hay fever, but a lovely, lovely, lush green background. It's a lovely time of year, this, isn't it? It's just where everything comes to life. Well, apart from you and me, I can tell. Yeah. Are you feeling it? Yes, I can see. We'll get it together at some point, won't we? Probably on the second coffee. Yes, after a sit down. Jammy Dodger, I get the picture. Back as ever to your story. What I find fascinating, as I say, is when people decide to do these tell-all books. Step forward, the former BBC breakfast presenter, Louise Minchin. Right now, she's been on the BBC for many years, earning a substantial amount of money. A couple of years ago, she decided to step down for that ubiquitous line to spend more time with the family and get new adventures. But then, of course, a couple of years down the line, you get to find out exactly why they've decided to leave. Now, what I find fascinating so far is Louise, who's not necessarily a household name over here in the United Kingdom, always played second fiddle. Well, she's now complaining about playing second fiddle. In fact, she's moaning about it in a book, saying she never understood why she was never allowed to introduce the programme first, as in Good Morning, I'm. And then she couldn't do the first interview first. She felt this was because she was a woman. It always went to the man. And then she moans further down the book that, well, I never got paid the same as the man. Now, let's not forget, these were very hefty salaries, over £150,000 a year, a substantial amount for many years. So it's incredible, isn't it, to think that Louise now decides to come out and knock the broadcaster, the BBC, of which paid her so well. And I'm never really sure exactly what these people want from these books. Does it make you like them more? Are you endeared to them more? Or indeed, do you just think they're simple moaners? And finally, I would ask, who would buy this particular book? It's a fascinating sort of study in psychology. I'm sure you'll agree, because what it really reveals is simply this: ego, ambition, thrusting forward, and more importantly, making sure it's all about them. And if you were the boss of the BBC, imagine having to deal with such talent that seemingly never ever is it enough. As ever, I'd love to know what you think to this particular story in the comments below. Do you ever buy these books? Are you intrigued? Do you ever buy these books? Or are you intrigued? Or are you like me, just simply waiting till they hit the pound shop? And if you've got nothing else to do, you'll have a quick flick through it. As ever, let me know what you think in the comments below. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.